How hopeful are Ukrainians that this could actually be the end to the fighting?
They're ending the program. Welcome back to Moose on Loose. My name's David. Today we've got Carney Liberals ending one of the good programs we have regarding foreign workers. Are we surprised at this point? We also have updates from Ukraine as well as Iran. Got a bunch of other stories here. Let's jump into this. Starting this one off, where's Mark Carney right now? Well, we've got Mr. Bench here tracking him. Looks like he's in Nanaimo. At least he was yesterday. So the flight going over here, we're going to mute the audio once again. So at first we didn't know if he's going to Vancouver, but ended up landing in Nanaimo. Now, in a recent podcast, Mark Carney did say he has extended family on Vancouver Island, so maybe that's why he's out here on the island. Or he could be checking up on some Brookfield assets, a lot of the hydro plants, a lot of different companies Brookfield owns out here, so who knows? We got this one from Canada Proud. Police in Toronto are looking for a man who tried to light another man on fire at the Kennedy subway station. Only in Canada would you get stories like this? Thanks, Liberals. Got this one from Table Salt. Says, look at this $75,000 Lexus NX doing a food run at the Brampton Food Bank. This is the state of Canada now. So we can have that audio in there, but you can see food bank here, Brampton Food Bank. And yeah, $75,000 Lexus. Just pile the food in there, guys. This needs to be against the law. We need to have rules against this. Like, this is deplorable. Clearly, these people are from out of country because Canadians would not do this. Our honor and ethics of food banks and food bank usage is very strong here in Canada. I notice anyone who sees this kind of stuff who's a Canadian immediately gets triggered and angry and upset that someone would do this. Canadians don't do this kind of stuff. We got conservative Dan Mazier with this one. The Public Health Agency of Canada has revealed that more than 150 million worth of personal protective equipment stored in a national emergency strategic stockpile is expired. The Liberals are storing 64 million units of unstable PPE, leaving Canadians and frontline workers vulnerable. Of course they are. Where are they storing this? In the $8 million barn? Remember Trudeau's barn where it's got some cryptic elevator that goes down underneath? It looks like some sort of weird warehouse. $8 million bucks. Are they storing it down there? Where are they storing it? More wasteful spending. Of course it is. That's all the Liberals do. Follow the money. Which Liberal and their kin, friends, associates got rich in this scheme? They always get rich in these schemes. Well-connected insiders ripping off taxpayers. Moving ahead here on the Globe and Mail, we've got this one. Immigration Department halts skilled refugee jobs program, leaving employers in limbo. That's right. They're canceling the only good foreign worker program we have. It says the Immigration Department halted a pilot program that matched skilled refugees with job vacancies and granted them permanent residency, leaving Canadian businesses and fresh hires in limbo days before Christmas. So basically the doctors, the engineers, the mechanics, construction workers, that's what this program is. It brings in these high-skilled workers that produce GDP to Canada's economy, brings them in, grants them permanent residency, helps boost our economy, and they canceled this program. And instead they leave the other ones like the mobility program that places like Tim Hortons and Subway abuse, bringing all these temporary foreign workers, screwing over Canadians' youth not being able to get jobs. The Liberals are the worst of the worst. The unexpected decision to pause the economic mobility pathways pilot, communicated last week in a letter to groups involved in the program, has dismayed and surprised nonprofit recruiters matching displaced people with employers in Canada. In its notice, the government cited a large backlog of explaining the policy change. The decision was made as Ottawa has come under pressure to curb migration. Yeah, they're not going to curb the bad stuff. They're going to still let the cheap workers that their big corporate buddies take advantage of, but they eliminate a program dedicated to high-skilled workers. And while it wasn't the biggest program out there, and there's other ways that these people can come into Canada, this program was dedicated to high-skilled workers and they get rid of it. Why would they do this? It makes no sense. Prime Minister made it clear in his mandate letter to ministers earlier this year that he wants the government to attract global talent to Canada, yet they're going to pause this program, which does exactly that. On December 19th, the government paused until further notice a similar immigration pilot program designed to fill labor gaps in home care for seniors, children, and people with disabilities. And home care worker immigration pilots were halted because demand for care workers for permanent residence exceeded the number of places available. So this program here, the Economic Mobility Pathways Project, is the one we're talking about. You can see it right here on the government's own website. We're no longer accepting new applications. It's every single day here. Even just before New Year's, you got crap like this coming out from the Liberal government. There's really only one way to describe this situation. This clip here sums it up.
Yeah, I think the principles of the Liberal Party of Canada are pretty ironclad. Do whatever it takes to win. Yeah,
Yeah, not what's best for Canada, whatever it takes to win. They'll do whatever it takes to win. In this case, case, winning is bringing in more low-skilled workers, getting rid of the high-skilled ones, and absolutely decimating Canada's GDP. Speaking of GDP, we've got Canada mortgage debt hits $2.39 trillion, bigger than the entire GDP. And it says, get this, it's grown 2% in just 7 months. And we're talking mortgage debt, while the economy shrinks 0.4%. Canada is printing debt with nothing to show for it. Go woke, go broke, elbows up, debt up. That's where we are today. Carney, the PM, it's all about maxing out the credit card regardless of consequences. I mean, the same thing with Justin Trudeau. It's nice when the taxpayer is on the hook for it. Now, I do want to share a bit of good news, some new technology that will make home building faster. We can get more homes built in Canada. And really, I don't think this is going to be reducing the amount of jobs. It'll just be shifting the jobs from spending more time building each house to building more houses. What we're talking about is AI robots that help build homes.
Calgary is facing an affordable housing crisis, as you likely know, with experts estimating we need thousands more units on the market every year just to keep up with the city's rising population. But a Canadian company is hoping to help with its use of artificial intelligence and robotics. Jacqueline Wilson explains.
An official opening to a proprietary factory as a service home building concept in Calgary.
We actually work directly with the builders. We don't tell them what their design is. They just bring their design. That design is translated to our AI system, to robotic manufacturing system that is produced rapidly in a factory that is behind me, and then is shipped to the site for rapid assembly.
Prefabricated homes can be produced in this 60,000 square foot facility in weeks and put together in days.
To see what Promise Robotics is doing here is just revolutionizing the construction industry.
Based on current migration, the city estimates between 5,000 and 15,000 units will need to be built each year beyond current output to restore affordability to pre-pandemic levels.
In the city of Calgary, we have about 2.6 people per home. And so when we talk a need to deliver 10,000 more homes a year, that's really talking about 26,000 Calgarians.
Reid Hendry says the city's goal is for Calgarians to spend approximately 30% or less of household income on housing.
30% or less. In Canada, it's well over 50, 60, 70%, which is really sad. I think this is good technology. It speeds up home building construction. You can see these robots building just chunks, and then these Lego chunks go together. They still need workers on the ground to put these pieces together, but it allows for faster home construction. The scary thing is, even if this technology exists in every home building company across Canada, it still wouldn't build enough homes. There's such a big deficit. We need millions of homes with how many people the Liberals have brought in. We need to cut off immigration. We need this kind of technology to speed things up, to get through the deficit of homes and bring down the prices.
Bulgarians are still struggling to afford housing-related bills, and we have a lot of work to do to get back to pre-pandemic levels.
Homes built by Promise Robotics are already on the market, with the first assembled this past summer in partnership with Mattamy Homes.
The amount of skilled trades has been a challenge over the years and only continues to grow as that workforce is retiring and as that demand for new homes continues to grow. So the more that we're using manufacturing, automation, building components for the homes in a plant, can really help with that skilled trade shortage as well.
While Mattamy Homes is partnered with Promise Robotics, its facility is set up to work with any builder. Jacqueline Wilson, CTV News, Calgary.
Send them over the file that they need, and it just builds whatever shapes they need. What's cool about this is this can work 24 hours a day, I'm assuming. These robots can work through the night. I'm sure they have someone there monitoring them, making sure nothing goes wrong, but they can essentially build this stuff in the middle of the night. They can build this through winter. Now, the only connections I can find between this company here, Promise Robotics, and Mark Carney or Brookfield or any of that is what we see here. So prop tech startup Promise Robotics completes $20.8 million Series A financing. And in that financing, we have the Public Sector Pension Investment Board. This is the same pension fund here that invested in Entropy Carbon Capture, $200 million. This isn't to Brookfield, as well as these connections here with Deborah K. Orita, Goldman Sachs, Bilderberg conference here. Both Mark Carney and Deborah went to this. So she's in charge of the PSP. They invested in this company. That's the only connection I can find thus far. Thought this was an interesting one from the National Post. It says 172 caucus members or one MP majority is not the panacea for the Liberals that many imagined it to be. In fact, in many ways, it's the worst case scenario for a majority government. And that's the the truth, because if the speaker is one of these people, then they can't vote. They can't push things through, so they really need another person. But then if you have a caucus that is divided, say on the MOU with Alberta pipeline, then a bunch of them, at least 10, 12 of those people are not going to vote in favor of the pipeline. It won't get pushed through. So even with a majority government, it'll make Mark Carney look like a failure because he can't unite his own caucus. While they'd be able to drag things on for 3 more years and they would push Brookfield policies through that would enrich himself, he would look like a failure for quite some time because a lot of the stuff would not be happening. Let's not hope that this is what happens, but as it mentions, 172 is technically the magic number, but it's not as simple as that. I mean, even Terrebonne riding in Quebec, the activist judge gave that over to the Liberals, even though there was more votes to flip that over to the Bloc. So if they lose that one, then once again, they need another seat there. So really, Carney needs to get a majority government through votes, and that's not going to happen because his support is slipping. And he knows right now an election would be another Liberal or it would be a Conservative minority government. To give this a few more months here, and hopefully the NDP can steal back their support. We're starting to see it in the recent polls. They're starting to pull back support right now. I think mostly from the Liberals, a little bit from the Conservatives too, as they split in the last election. And as they pull more of that back, the Liberals become weaker. So this article just goes on to talk about what I mentioned here. The speaker is the tiebreaker vote, but if there's not a tie, then he doesn't vote. So it's not valuable to the Liberals. So they need another person. They need 2 floor crossers. If the Terrebonne riding goes to the Bloc, they need 3 more seats. So it's not a slam dunk as leftist media would like to make it out to be, like mainstream media. And even if they were to get 3 or 4 more, I mean, a lot of these things once again wouldn't get passed because the caucus is split. Mark Carney is pretending to do some conservative stuff, and it's pissing off a lot of his leftist MPs in British Columbia. So it goes on to talk about prorogation, what happens if they get a majority, and really it wouldn't achieve anything. We just need a few more months here for Carney to lose support and then get a majority conservative government. Next up, we're going to jump over to the conflict with Russia and Ukraine. First, we're just posting this one showing comparing the GDP growth of Ukraine versus Canada. And guess what? Ukraine's got more GDP growth than us. Canada's estimate 1.1 to 1.3. Ukraine is 2 to 2.5% GDP growth. This really is just unbelievable. Moving ahead, we've got Russia will toughen negotiating stance as Ukraine dismisses claims it targeted Putin's residence. So apparently they sent some pow-pows over to Putin's house, and now he is pissed. There's videos of him rolling out his big nuclear toys down Russian roads.
We're tracking new developments in Russia's war on Ukraine this morning. The Kremlin is threatening to take a harder stand in peace talks after accusing Ukraine of targeting Russian President Vladimir Putin with a drone strike. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky is rejecting the Russian claim. He calls the allegation that Ukraine tried to carry out a drone strike on one of Putin's residences as, quote, typical Russian lies. The Kremlin leveled the accusation the day after the Ukrainian leader spoke about making good progress on a peace deal in his meeting with Trump. Bogdan Nihaylo is the editor of the Kyiv Post. He calls the Kremlin's claim a stalling tactic.
Moscow is under pressure. It's seeing that there is some movement towards peace settlement, at least on the Western side, a kind of, shall we say, cohesion in the Ukrainian, American and broader coalition of the willing. And that's putting Russia in a difficult place. So they have to, invent something to allow Trump to stall yet again and say, well, we're going to need another few weeks now, etc. The point is that Moscow has not substantiated its claims. Secondly, to anybody who follows Russian affairs, Putin has several residences. That's not one of his main residences. And thirdly, it's very cynical to say that there were drones in the vicinity of one of his settlements, if they were, after such a heavy bombardment of Kyiv and other Ukrainian cities on the very eve of the peace talks in Florida. So, it's cynicism and disinformation all in one.
Mm-hmm. Well, you mentioned the peace talks in Florida. We know, of course, that Zelensky and Trump have met, and Trump has talked to now Putin 2 times at least about all this. And Trump and Zelensky anyways, are saying that they are closer than ever before to a deal. Yet, of course, Putin would have to sign on to all of this. How hopeful are Ukrainians that this could actually be the end to the fighting and a peace settlement could be reached?
They're hopeful for the longer term, but nobody expects peace to suddenly emerge in the next weeks, shall we say, because
yeah, I don't think that's coming anytime soon. They said this multiple times now, and it just doesn't keep coming. I mean, Putin just keeps dragging this on.
Putin has made it very clear in the last days, just before the meeting with Trump and Zelensky in Florida, he came out with a very strong statement saying if we don't get our historical lands back, we will continue the fight. There was no semblance of wanting peace, of negotiations. It was all or nothing. Give it to us.
This is a situation where I don't think Putin wants peace. I mean, maybe if they said, here's the new land borders, this is the historical lines, maybe he would stop. But I think that would eat up a lot of Ukraine where they're not going to do it. So what's the solution here? More 19-year-olds have to perish. That's basically what's going to happen. Now, moving ahead here, we've got some serious stuff happening in Iran. The people are completely revolting against this corrupt regime here. We got Tommy Robinson posting this. Now, this started in Tehran, and now it's spread all over Iran. You see people flooding to the streets. It says entire cities have shut down. The bazaars, nothing's operating because people are revolting. We got breaking following uprising in Iran and collapse of currency. Iran's central bank governor Mohammad Reza Farzin has resigned. We got a video here of the Islamic regime retreating as the anti-Islam protesters are pushing them back. It's a little spicy here. So you can see they're basically chasing them out of town. This is happening all over the place. We've got this from the University of Tehran. Same sort of thing. They're chasing people out of town. Students were at the forefront of the previous revolution. It's time to right the wrongs of the prior generation.